Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Today we're going to be talking about AEW Rampage from February the 11th, 2022. So before we get into Rampage, obviously we do news and notes first. And one news and note that I think is very interesting, Hikaru Shida. Shida did an article where she talked about the struggles of being a Joshi Puroresu in AEW. This kind of flew under the radar while everybody was out here crowing about the Saudi shows. Hikaru Shida was making very interesting comments about AEW. So I'm not going to read it all, but she says that at the time of launch, the women's division of AEW relied heavily on Japanese female pro wrestlers, and that was one of the selling points of the division. But that was only for a while after the launch. Nowadays, being a Japanese female pro wrestler is not as much of an advantage as it used to be. Then she says that she's struggling to survive in the current AEW. It has become a handicap in terms of language barrier, obtaining a work visa, and the corona disaster. I myself am no exception to this. Even as a member of the AEW since its inception and a former women's champion, I'm struggling to survive in AEW. In AEW, there is a high degree of freedom for the wrestlers, but because of that, everything is their responsibility. For example, there is basically no assistance from the organization in finding a place to live. Even if you are Japanese, that's how it was for me. So when I heard that Sakura-san was moving to the US, I was worried. I've been studying English since I was a child, and I speak English better than most people think. But I still had a lot of trouble. Sakura-san, on the other hand, was at a level where even daily conversation was questionable. Even so, she found a room on her own and is desperately trying to seize the opportunity at AEW. But even though she came to America with such determination, she was not given a chance to participate in the TV matches. There is a fierce battle to get a chance to compete before you can show off your skills in a match. That is what AEW is today. The AEW is an organization that is always pushing new possibilities. And I don't think that Japanese women's wrestling has disappeared from the list of options. Once Corona settled down, there will be a day where AEW and women's wrestling can interact in a new way. That being said, I would take this opportunity to say that even if we are able to sign a contract, it's just the start. So I don't know what that means if she can sign a contract. Maybe her contract is about to come up. I know she is back in Japan right now doing something. I think she does some kind of show, and she's doing that in Japan currently. Also, which was pretty funny, is she was on the internet.com, and she was talking, somebody asked her what was her favorite moment of being all elite, and Hikaru Shida responded, sitting at the catering, watching and talking about wrestling. This was oh my God. The thing is, she kept the tweets up. She didn't delete the tweets. Even though everybody kind of took this to mean that out of being world champion and everything that she's ever done, her favorite moment was sitting in catering and talking about wrestling. Oh, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. This pole dancer is out here really wrecking your shit up, Tony. Look, here's the crazy thing. And this is why, the whole independent contractor thing. This is what she kind of tilted on right here. She talked about it in her little piece. I just swiped it away. I don't know why I did that. Why did I do that? Why did I swipe that away when I was reading it? Anyway, she was talking about how the company doesn't really help them. WWE actually does. When they ask people to move, they actually do sometimes help them get places to live. Not just, international talent, but also when they move somebody from one place to another, WWE does sometimes give them money in order for them to find new places to live. And sometimes, yes, when they do weird things like have a guy move from Las Vegas to fucking Florida, and they help put him up in an apartment somewhere, and then he gets fired 2 weeks later. It's like, yeah, that sucks, but it seemingly they didn't spend their own money when they moved them halfway across the country. It was WWE spending their own fucking money. At least most of the time. At least that's my knowledge of it. It could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, maybe not for everybody. But it's my experience as far as the people I've seen that WWE does most of the paying when it comes to, putting people in their first place and stuff like that, helping people along as they move to Florida. But maybe because AEW isn't asking people to move, they're kind of like, well, we don't feel obligated to do that. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting stuff from Miss Hikaru Shida, who was more interested in talking about wrestling than actually wrestling in that fucking ring. I don't know, man. That's nice, though. All right, so the next note that I want to discuss here is Lita. Lita was approached with an idea to work with Britt Baker. And she says that she finds AEW exciting, but didn't feel it was the right fit for her because she had all of these other things that she had for 20 years. Essentially, I guess, she didn't want to run opposition to WWE, from what it felt like. But let me read it to you, and maybe you will see if you get something different out of it. She says, anytime there's competition is good. It revives the industry. When they reached out to me, I did consider it. I said, we can talk. I'm interested. You guys are doing some interesting stuff. But ultimately, upon talking to them, it just made me say to myself, but I have all of these things already. I have those things with my home that I've been for 20 years. With the people that I've worked with for 20 years. Basically, I gave them my blessing. I said, I will watch you and I support you. And I want you guys to do great. But this just doesn't feel like the right fit for me right now. So she said it doesn't feel like the right fit for her right now. And apparently, whatever it is, maybe they couldn't come to terms on the money. Maybe. Maybe, there's some other things going on. But if you saw a lot of people attacking Lita lately, that's why. That's what it boils down to, is Lita shut them down. So all of that is very interesting. Not to say that it's groundbreaking or anything, but all very, very interesting stuff. All right, so let's get into Rampage. And this show, man, boy, oh boy. There wasn't even anything on this show for me to laugh at, but there is some interesting stuff that occurred. Roppongi Vice were defeated by the Young Bucks. So apparently Danhausen cursing the Young Bucks, which they pulled him from under the ring. Apparently he lives under the ring like Hornswoggle. Him and Hornswoggle are roommates. That would be nice if one day Danhausen comes from under the ring, and then Hornhausen comes from under the ring too, and he's got his face painted like Danhausen, and they're like roommates wearing pajamas and shit. They look like bananas in pajamas, or like Bert and Ernie. They have beds under the ring, but it's two separate beds. So there's no funny bed, ain't no hanky-panky going on under there. Might as well. Everything else under the fucking ring. This match was what it was. BTE trigger for the win. I'm just glad it was over. After the match, Jay White attacked Trent, hit him with the Blade Runner, which is his version of Sister Abigail. Then it was announced that Jay White, yes, Jay White, the leader of the Bullet Club, the guy that Tony Khan called at the 11th hour because he misused his own terminology of the Forbidden Door. He panicked when he found out that the ratings for last week weren't so good. And he said, we're going to have a free agent from the Forbidden Door. We're going to have a free agent from the Forbidden Door. And everybody's like, wait a minute. That's two different things, boss. And he tweeted out, no. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And we're going to have it next week. And it worked. They got like 1.1 million viewers or something like that for Dynamite, which, congratulations. The gimmick worked. The gimmick worked. You got people super excited for the show. And then they had CM Punk on there twice, wrestled that really long match with Moxley, and it worked. The gimmick worked. But so Jay White is there, but for no real reason other than he made a promise to that audience that he had to fulfill. And to me, that's stupid. It's so stupid. All you had to do is say, for clarification purposes, we're bringing in somebody. We're signing somebody up. Maybe Forbidden Door isn't the right word, which is going to bring somebody else in. For fuck's sake, he felt like he had to do two because people thought that he was going to bring in two. This guy, he got more money than common sense. You brought in a guy the caliber of Jay White, and you're gonna have his debut match on fucking Rampage. His debut match will be on Rampage. His debut match will be on Rampage. The first match Jay White has in AEW is going to be on Rampage. The B show. Oh yes, we're going to bring in Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, whatever, and their first match is going to be on Metal. Oh, fuck. Fuck you. You gotta be... Shotgun Saturday night. Alright. Whatever, man. Moving on very quickly. Bryan Danielson. He says that he is not upset at all about Jon Moxley's one-night stand with CM Punk. He is offering him a longer-term relationship in terms of how to change and help AEW grow. I don't know why everything has to be homoerotic with AEW. Even Danielson stuff is getting homoerotic. Very strange, but I didn't dislike this segment because Matt Sydal came in and was like, "What up, bro?" I mean, I was totally sitting back there all zen and shit. And then I hear that you were talking about my teaching. You saying I'm not a good teacher, man? That Lee Moriarty would be better off without me, man? And Bryan Danielson said, well, look, you're a great teacher, great athlete, fantastic guy. You know, we've been friends for a long time, but I don't think you have what it takes to teach. There's things Lee Moriarty needs to know. He needs to know about violence. And Lee stood up and was like, why are y'all talking about me like I ain't standing right here? It's because you a kid, you know? So, grown folks are talking, a legend and a 15% legend are talking. And he gets in Bryan Danielson's face and says, how about I show you what kind of violence I have? And then Danielson challenged him to a match on Dynamite. So Lee Moriarty would be testing his skills against Bryan Danielson. And they put that match on Dynamite. Okay. Okay. Hey, Danielson is the Lord and Savior. I will not say bad words about Bryan Danielson. I may make fun of him, but I will not say bad things about him. He's still wearing a white t-shirt, by the way. Britt Baker took far too long to wrestle this Robin Renegade. Robin Renegade looked familiar. Like I've seen her somewhere before, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Either way, after the match, Britt Baker put her in lockjaw again. Thunder Rosa came down to make the save, and then Jamie Hayter, who was not at ringside for this match, ran down after the fact to save Britt from Thunder Rosa. And then Mercedes Martinez came out there to finish her business with Thunder Rosa. And then Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Martinez got into each other's faces. And I was like, oh boy. All right, this isn't the big match that everybody thought it was going to be. I'm actually quite confused. I don't see what the problem is. Why can't both of you, like one grab a leg, the other grab a leg, and just rip that bitch in half if that's what you're going to do? You don't have to fight over who's going to beat up Thunder Rosa. You can work together. She has more than enough limbs and fingers for everybody to break. Just do your thing. Go to work. But I don't know. I guess we gotta have some kind of conflict in this thing. Britt Baker is lost. She has the belt, but she's got nothing going on really. She's got no contenders within eyesight, and it's just internal struggles from now on. And I said this about WWE too, right? When WWE, and they always do this, whenever there is no external threat, the threat becomes internal. So you start having, I don't know what to do because this guy's not doing anything. You'll have tag team partners arguing. People in a faction with each other fighting each other because they've gotten rid of the external threat. So now the threat can only be internal. It's just like politics, When there's no foreign wars, you have domestic wars, which is why usually people try to keep up foreign wars. So we can unify around something. Now, Britt Baker doesn't have any foreign opponents outside of Thunder Rosa, but Thunder Rosa is not an immediate contender, at least not right now. So since she doesn't have any opponents, the entire story is about her faction arguing with each other. Last time Britt Baker didn't have any opponents, what happened? She was arguing with Reba and Jamie Hayter and all them. And then then Riho happened, and they coalesced around Riho. And then when Riho was gone, they went back to arguing with each other. This is how you can tell when people are trying to. Conflict is the lifeblood of storytelling. You need to have conflicts, and usually, when you are writing a story, the conflict can mean anything. That's why I say internal conflict, external conflict. A lot of stories will have external conflicts. You will see like a Conan the Barbarian, right? And sometimes one of the conflicts may be man versus nature. That's a big conflict. So you'll see Conan, has to find food. He has to fight bears and shit to find food. It's an easy way to write conflict. It's a bear between him and a stack of fish or some shit. It's an easy way to show him killing something in a comic book or in a story. And he can still have an internal conflict about where he's trying to go and all that kind of shit. But it's just cheap. It's cheap shit. Unless the internal conflict really matters, like depression, like, having a real serious problem with yourself. But some internal conflicts is just bullshit that you're just dragging along to pad the story. And that's what this is. This is why I say I didn't like what they did last week by bringing in Mercedes Martinez and then teaming her up with this. It was horseshit. We didn't need this. Why does Mercedes Martinez need to work for anybody? Why can't she just want to crack Thunder Rosa in the head with a pipe? Because she wants to. Because fuck Thunder Rosa today. Mercedes Martinez is a great character who could pull that off. Some people can't pull off random acts of violence. But Mercedes Martinez has the look, the demeanor, the personality that I would perfectly believe that if she's being out wrestled in a match, she'll hit you with a pipe or something. Sure. I 100% believe that. It's not like it's Julia Hart or anything like that. So you can definitely just get like Mercedes Martinez just wasn't feeling Thunder Rosa that day and she cracked her with a pipe. Fuck her. Or we could have just been, maybe Jade Cargill brought me in, but I'm doing my own thing. Jade just put her foot in the door and let me in, but I'm doing my own thing. I don't see why she has to be a part of this whole menagerie anyway. Why the fuck does Britt Baker have so many people around her? And these people don't seem to serve any real purpose. She has a bodyguard who ain't guarding her body. And she got Reba, who is a personal assistant? Ever since she got out of that wheelchair, Reba has been fucking irrelevant. What is the purpose of all these people? I don't know. I spent way too much time talking about that. So, Ricky Starks announced that Willie Hobbs will be battling Dante Martin in a Face of the Revolution ladder match qualifier next week. And I literally shook my head. I shouldn't, because both of these guys should be in that match. So now you're telling me only one of them is going to be in it when they both should be in it. Stupid. Just frustrating, not nothing to really throw anything in the air about, but Hobbs should definitely be in the match and Dante Martin should definitely be in the match. They're two of your best mid-card guys, Why aren't, whatever. Maybe I'll see the entire slate of guys who are going to be in it and say, okay, maybe this guy shouldn't be in there, whatever. But as I'm looking at it right now, these are two guys that should be in there. Sorry. They did a vignette for Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander, which features some actual cold-blooded stuff. Layla Hirsch talked about being adopted, from Russia and all that kind of stuff. I was like, wow, that's kind of sad. That kind of gave her some sympathy. And then Statlander said, you hit me with a chair. And if this was your attitude as a kid, I see why your parents gave you up. And I was like, I sat back on my love seat. And I said, I hope Layla Hirsch twists this bitch head off like a bottle of Coca-Cola. Just twist her fucking head off. You don't say that about people. Not if you're the baby face. You don't say that shit. All right? Well, I'm glad. This is why you got adopted. This is why you got given away by your parents. What the fuck? I'm about to pop your top like a bottle of lotion. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say some shit like that? This is why, wrestling needs to have real heels again. You couldn't have pulled that shit on some of these other guys, man. They'd have beat you to a pulp. I hope Layla Hirsch really hurts Chris Statlander. Like, legit. That was some completely unnecessary horseshit. The third match, Hook defeated Blake Lee, who was supposed to be the prize student of QT Marshall And he looks like an absolutely average looking job guy. Black boots, black trunks. He had a bird on his chest. And he just looked completely and totally, he looked like nothing. And of course, Hook beat him with no problems whatsoever. Just embarrassed him, threw him all over the place. All the Hook's greatest hits he did him on this guy. And we seemingly got nothing out of this Blake Lee fella. We got nothing. This was, I mean, it was what it was. If you're a fan of Hook, you liked it. But for me, it was like, this was a waste of a storyline. We could have done QT Marshall has a prized pupil. Somebody that nobody's ever seen before. And this was the guy that pushed Hook to the limit. Because, Hook has never wrestled this guy before. And you could say easily, Hook dominated all the other factory guys because he trained with them. He knows them. He was in there with them. He knows their strengths and their weaknesses or whatever. But this guy, he's never seen this guy before. So you can go in there and actually tell that story of Hook being surprised by how strong he is, or being surprised about how fast he is, or whatever the case may be. And they just had him get beat like every other job guy. And I'm just kind of like, what the fuck was the point of this story? And then there was no real interaction between Hook and QT Marshall afterwards. So it was just kind of like, okay. And they're still pushing this cold-hearted, handsome devil thing. But that's a lot of nickname. That's a lot of nickname, dog. Cold-hearted, handsome devil. That's a lot. And it's all very generic, too. It's not specific in any way. I like cold-hearted, though. Cold-hearted is pretty cool. The cold-hearted Hook. Because he's very aloof. But I don't want to say he's cold-hearted. He's a good-looking guy. He's a handsome devil. That's like some shit from the 1950s. You about a decade for calling him a foxy or whatever. The main event of the show, the Gun Club versus Jurassic Express, versus Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. There was some Billy Gunn, Christian shenanigans outside the ring, of course. And of course, Billy Gunn and Christian did all the promos too. As Billy Gunn talked about, hey, you wanted my boys to make a statement, we did. And Christian said, yeah, it's a good news, bad news situation. The good news is you got your shot. Bad news, after the match, you're going to go back to the back of the line. Jungle Boy actually talked here, and he says that people remember undefeated streaks, but yours is not one of those people are going to remember. And he made another joke about them being ass boys and all that kind of stuff. The match itself, look, I think Colton, he got a pretty good clothesline in on Jungle Boy. And it's probably the most impressive thing I saw in the whole match. And he threw a pretty stiff clothesline on that guy. And I was like, it was some starch on that thing. I'm like, all right. But I couldn't have cared less about the Gun Club. I mean, how could you care about the Gun Club? What the fuck do? They don't do anything. So why would you care? Why would you care? And Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus have been, B-grade tag team champions. So, I don't know. The match was what it was. I wasn't thrilled with it. I didn't hate it either. It was just a thing, with Christian and Billy Gunn outside the ring. All right. So, apparently, there's one more thing. I forgot to mention this earlier. But apparently, they're changing Penta's name to Pentagon Oscuro, or Penta Oscuro, not Penta Azul. So, maybe it might have been Penta Azul in the original vignette, but when they tweeted out his new name, I think it was Pentagon Oscuro, or Penta Oscuro. And Oscuro means dark, or shadow, or something like that. So he is going to Pentagon Dark, which was his character in Lucha Underground. So I love that. That's great. I thought it was Azul. It's planning something else. All right, sweet. So we've everything's all right. Everything is going to be all right. So Rampage once again was the shits. It's a boring show, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace and blessings.
MagMongoSlade. House average, you daddy.